Stand by for action.
Every show we drop the needle on the tracks that were part of the mixed tapes and mixtapes of my 80s and 90s. Tunes that followed me on the train in the morning, on the way to my adventures on the weekend, and all the times in between. Please join me as I share a track from the record box, what I remember, a little bit of history, and a hell of a lot of nostalgia. I'm Michael, and please join me as we get lost in 12 inches. Drop. If you've never heard this before, you're in for a treat. I give you Playing with Knives by Bizarre Inc. This track is one of those tunes that defined the early 90s rave scene. Released in 1991, it came out of a tiny bedroom studio in Stratford, where Andrew Meacham, Dean Meredith and Carl Turner were experimenting with breakbeats, piano stabs and squelchy acid lines. The result was pure magic, a furious piano techno workout that captured the energy of the underground perfectly. The song's DNA is fascinating. It borrowed vocal samples from Circuit's Shelter Me, Cuba Gooding's Happiness is Just Around the Bend, and Tyree's Move Your Body. And that bass line, built from a Roland 303 sample, mixed with another source they've never revealed. That secret ingredient gave it that unmissable squelch that still sounds fresh today. When it first dropped in 1991, in March, it only reached number 43 in the UK charts, but the ravers wouldn't let it die. And later that year in November, it was re-released and shot up to number 4, spending weeks in the top 10. Then, in 99, a remix brought it back again, hitting number 30. Not bad for a track born in a bedroom studio. And as one should expect, a track like this never charted in Australia. Critics eventually caught on, and NME ranked it in their 14th in their singles of the year for 1991. And Mixmag later put it at number 24 in their 100 greatest dance singles of all time. And DJs like Tall Paul still call it one of their all-time favourites. And whenever I hear this song, I think of Rod, as it was one of his favourites. Now, I can't really talk about Rod without talking about Quiet Earth. This all came about through a chance encounter one Tuesday in early March of 1992. If you've been listening to my previous episode, the Peace one, to be precise, you would know that I'd first met Rod at Happy Valley. And we hadn't seen each other since that party, but it didn't really feel like it had been that long, and we clicked again immediately. Over a couple of drinks on a rather plush sofa, we hatched a plan. "You know what I miss?" he said. "What?" I replied. "Oh, I miss Horden parties. They were great." "Yeah, man, they were. I love Horden parties." I said, "Really, I only haven't gone to 2, and a bit if you count rap where Grace Jones played." "Yeah, we should do a rave like a Horden party." And I said, "Man, that's brilliant. Yeah, you want to do it then?" "Absolutely." And then, as me being a cocksure 20-year-old, I went on to tell him that I'd started working at Adv Sound and I'd be able to get all the equipment. I think I'd done like less than 5 gigs with them at that stage. And he tells me about his cousin Andy, and how he works with Rob E and the whole DB connection. We plotted for hours, and by the end of the night, the planning for what would become Quiet Earth was in motion. We swapped numbers and agreed to talk the next day. Now, I like to take credit for the name. Why do we call it Quiet Earth? Well, it's the title of a New Zealand indie film about the end of the world. And I thought it'd make a great name because it wasn't going to be quiet. It was going to be loud as fuck. So here's how it all planned out. Rod and I we hit our stride straight away. We were both on Paul Keating's surf team, which, believe it or not, actually bankrolled most of our day-to-day madness. I was picking up a couple of shifts a week at Avsound, cashing hand gigs, just enough to keep things moving. Our week had its own groove. Tuesdays were for lunacy, yeah, that spot, setting the tone for everything else. Midweek was about party prep, usually at Rod's folks' place in Chatswood, and sometimes at his cousin Andy's over in Crow's Nest. Now, that was our HQs, where we hashed out all the wide ideas and tried to make sense of what we wanted this rave to be. We settled on a date, 26th of July, and began working through the details of our DJ lineup. We worked on the teaser and the main flyers, got t-shirts printed, started looking at different warehouses across Alexandria. We were determined to make this night unforgettable. Weekends, total chaos. Friday nights, sometimes I'd be working at an underage rave over in the North Shore. But then once I'd clocked off, I'd met up with Rod at Mars, and we'd hang there till stupid o'clock. Saturdays were kind of a bit of a blur. I'd help set up the party of that night, quickly grab a shower to scrub off all the sweat and the dirt, then regroup in a Paddington pub until kind of closing time. After that, straight on to the night's rave. Lights were, I was kind of doing that stuff, but I'd do a shift for about an hour, and once I'd wrapped up, dance the rest of the night away. Then I'd have to help pack up. I'd hunt for a shower wherever I could, and then we'd roll over to the Lloyd Roberts on Stanley Street. That was lager and limes, pinballs, and whatever chilled tunes the DJs were spinning until about 10. That was the cycle. Wild, exhausting, and honestly some of the best times ever. This went on for weeks. Sometimes there was a slight diversion on Friday. Like off club nights in Charlie Brown's in the Cross, or on Good Friday, a party at Rod's house that we called Weekend Warm-Up. So back then, you couldn't sell alcohol. Well, bars couldn't sell alcohol on that day. So we put this party together and got in about 3 days. Got the DJs, printed the flyers, got the PA, and then we spent all of Thursday night driving around to bottle shops buying beers that we could sell to pay for it all. And though the Saturday parties, like Psychosis 3 from the Welshies, Prodigy in some warehouse in Piedmont, and that one got shut down by the police at 4 a.m. Now, Aztec was the first party at the State Sports Centre in Homebush, and the debut of the Techno Fear Laser. Then there was Back to Basics, one from the Welshies, and Mixed Beans with dueling DJs at each end of the warehouse. And when we hit Beyond on the Queen's birthday weekend, we had real flyers, boxes of them. And it was at that moment when we were handing them out after that party, it all became very real. There was no turning back. To be continued. Alright, so would Playing with Knives end up in my monthly playlist if Spotify's algorithm put it into my Discover Weekly? I think it would. It's just one of those rave classics.
And now we are at the end of another nostalgia trip. If you've enjoyed listening to me ramble on, please subscribe to get notified when I release new episodes. I'm on all the socials, so check me out there. Thanks for listening to Lost in 12 Inches. I'm Michael, and as I always say, testicles.